going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I'm here making a video. Obviously, I haven't made one in a few days. Been super busy as always, but not obviously also not a lot to talk about. But I do have some things I want to talk about today. Sure, let's go ahead and get right into it. First of all, just a little fun point of interest. I don't know, a little bit of news. So the other day, it was actually a couple days ago now or whatever, Chad Ochocinco, right? He tweeted out, "I'm showing up to Dolphins camp in full gear. Either they give me a chance or I go to jail for trespassing." Right? So that's interesting. I seriously doubt we'll see, Ochocinco on the team. So I hope nobody saw that and thought it was going to be like a real thing. I don't know though, people might see that and be like, "Oh my God, I don't know." Anyway. But I thought it was funny and I thought it was interesting. But it's not, it's definitely not unheard of though that he might be around the building. It's possible he might come in, talk to guys and stuff like that, which would be cool. I like it when they do that, when they have, Adam Gase did it a lot, but Joe Philbin did it too. He brought in guys to talk to the team on occasion and stuff like that. Gase did it a lot, but most coaches, they don't necessarily like bring guys in. Sometimes they do, but sometimes if just guys or coaches, former players or whatever just happen to be in town for something, maybe they'll drop in, it'll be a surprise visit, whatever. So stuff like that does happen a lot. And then of course, I haven't heard anything about this, but of course, there's always possibilities that ex-players and stuff end up working for the team as a coach or whatever. Whatever. Anyway, like I said, there's no talk about that, so I'm not saying that's a thing either, but it's things like that do happen. Anyway, also another thing that I did want to talk about though is Albert Wilson. So it looks like he is making his way back. Obviously, Jakeem Grant, him and Jakeem Grant both got hurt. Jakeem Grant had the foot and Wilson had the hip. Grant has been working, with the team. He was working with the team in OTAs and minicamp. But Wilson was not, because he was not ready to. But from all reports from, his own mouth, it seems like we should expect him to be ready for week 1 of the regular season when it does start. So we'll keep an eye out for that, see how he's progressing, and hopefully that's accurate, and hopefully, him and Grant can get back up to full speed, because if they can get back up to full speed and, contribute in the way that they did last year, and then, even in the, even more in the, return and run game and stuff like that, not just as receivers, but lined up all over the place and stuff like that, then I think that it could provide us with opportunities to be dynamic. But again, my biggest concerns are first and foremost the offensive line, because look, I mean, at the end of the day, you could win games with Ryan Fitzpatrick or Josh Rosen. I think I prefer, personally, out of the two of them, I would definitely prefer Josh Rosen without question. But, you can win games, but not behind a suspect offensive line or a bad offensive line. And unfortunately, we're trending towards having that as opposed to having a good one. And so, while you might be able to say that, if you have a good offensive line, Ryan Fitzpatrick or Josh Rosen might be able to do some good things for you. It's for damn sure that if they don't have good offensive lines, they're not going to perform well. History has shown that. Josh Rosen showed that last year, and which again is not entirely his fault because, his offensive line failed him. But he showed that, in those, in that situation, he's going to respond in the way he did. And see, that's why, I know people hate this, but Ryan Tannehill gets too much criticism because he handled it pretty well despite being the most sacked quarterback in the league for the first 4 years of his career. Got better and better every year, improved in all areas, so on and so forth. Anyway, but then, you know, so when you have that suspect offensive line, then, you know, history has shown that those guys are not, you know, Ryan Fitzpatrick has definitely shown this. You know, so it's gonna be interesting, to say the least. But again, getting back to Albert Wilson, though, you know, hopefully that does, or that ends up being the case. He is able to come back for week 1, and hopefully he can get back up to full, because we're gonna need it, man. Because we're gonna need guys, you know, that could be a savior, right? That could be a saving grace for the offense. I think our defense is actually going to perform really well. I do really like Brian Flores with this defense and so on and so forth, and the young core guys that we have. So, you know, look, I mean, I think that the defense is actually going to perform well, and I think the defense is going to hold us in games. And so if our offense can produce, you know, this is not unfamiliar to us, but if our offense can produce anything, you know, but that's why, like, last year, you know, Adam Gase showed that, you know, one, if we have a good offensive line, then we can be super dynamic. You know, Kansas City Chiefs, before they lost, you know, Tyreek Hill, or Tyreek Hill got suspended for a little bit, but I think he's back now. God damn it, why can't I remember the running back's name? Anyway, you know who I'm talking about. Before they lost him, and then blah, 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 right? So, anyway, you know, we could have been that, but then even after we lost, you know, guys along the offensive line, he showed that, you know, get the ball into guys' hands like, you know, Albert Wilson and Jakeem Grant, and they'll make shit happen anyway because they're just so fast. So if we can get some of that this year, that could provide the offense with a little bit of firepower. Anyway, we're actually going to talk about that a little bit more in depth now, because the next thing I wanted to talk about was an article, Bleacher Report article that I saw about. They ranked the supporting casts for quarterbacks. So this is actually be a good transition segue into this. So every supporting cast for 2019, ranking every NFL quarterback supporting cast for 2019. It's a Bleacher Report article by Brad Gagnon. So, he ranks all of the teams. I'm obviously not going to go through his explanation of all of them because that's a lot, but I'll just read the little portion at the beginning and then tell you where we ranked and what he had to say about us. So, currently bloated NFL rosters will change substantially between now and the start of the 2019 regular season, but most of those changes will be peripheral. With the heart of free agency and the draft in the books, most teams have their cores in place as summer approaches. As a result, we already have a feel for the level of support each projected starting quarterback will enjoy or endure come September, dealing with primary skill position players only, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends, and taking past accomplishments, accolades, and to a lesser degree upside into account. Here's how we rank every NFL quarterback supporting cast ahead of 2019. Okay, so actually, real quick, I'm going to go from number 1. I'll tell you who they have ranked number 1, and I'll just go through the list. Wow. Although this is not surprising at all, to be honest with you. Anyway, so just to let you know, he ranked us at 32, so that's part of the reason why I'm doing this, because we'll get to us at the very end. But I also do want to let you know the list, because I do think it is fascinating. So number 1 is the Cleveland Browns, and that doesn't surprise me at all, because they got weapons. Baker Mayfield, Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham, David Njoku, I forgot who their running back is, but he's dynamic. Dude, I mean, it's... Oh, Nick Chubb. Jesus Christ, dude. Oh yeah, Kareem Hunt. Was the running back from the Chiefs, who is now on the Browns. Duke Johnson, Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham. Jesus Christ, man. I mean, Rashad Higgins and Antonio Callaway, David Njoku. They're going to be fucking nasty, bro. They are going to be... And their defense is... The Browns, dude, the Browns are going to be competing for a Super Bowl super soon. Super soon. Anyway, then it's going to be the Saints at number 2. The Rams, number 3. Chargers, Falcons. Then he has the Colts. Interesting. Then the 49ers. Then the Cowboys. The Eagles. Vikings. Alright, I mean, all this kind of makes sense so far for the most part. I don't know if I would have put the Colts that high, but the Lions at 11. Kansas City Chiefs should probably be higher too than 12, but whatever. The Bears at 13. Packers. Texans at 15. 16 are the Raiders. The Raiders, man. That's interesting. Tampa Bay at 17. Seattle at 18. Tennessee at 19. Carolina at 20. Pittsburgh at 21. Cincinnati at 22. The Patriots at 23. Interesting. The Patriots are all the way down at 23. That's fascinating. Look, I still do think that the Patriots dynasty is coming to a close soon. And I think that they definitely got pushed into this last Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl off of officiating. Look, man, people can say what they want. They can call me, conspiracy theorist. But I think that it's pretty clear and obvious that the Patriots get such, in every game that they play, they get such a fucking, it might, and it very well could be, very unconscious bias, but there's definitely a Patriots bias in every game they play with officiating. And, it's just absolutely ridiculous. They should not have even been in the Super Bowl. They lost to the Chiefs. They should have lost to the Chiefs, rather. They didn't because of one drive that gave them points that essentially, gave them the win. The Chiefs should have won regulation, and then they honestly got helped in the Super Bowl. I mean, I'm keeping it real. Look, and so, they got helped, so they cheated to get to 2 of their Super Bowls, and that's why, man, there better be like a major asterisk next to, the Patriots and their 6 fucking Super Bowls, because they cheated their way to 2 of them, and then they fucking got helped to 1 of them for sure by the officiating. And of course, it's with the state of the, I know I'm kind of going off on a side thing, but with the state of the officiating just in general in the NFL, it's not hard to disguise it. But I mean, a lot of it's pretty obvious even, and it's ridiculous. Even that stuff where they showed, there was a lot of talk for a little while after it happened, but Tom Brady gets sacked, and then the officials, the refs are coming over and helping him up, making it a point. But then, and I think it was even when we were playing them, it might have been, I don't know. But then whoever the quarterback on the other side was got sacked, and refs didn't do anything. It was just another play, another day, no big deal. But Tom Brady got sacked, and they go over, they help him up, they brush him off, all this other shit. And that's why I'm saying, it could totally be unconscious, inner bias, be because Tom Brady's so great, and maybe even because he's they think he's a good dude, and so on and so forth. I think he's kind of a prick, from what I've seen about him. I've never met him personally, so I don't know him personally, so I'm just speculating based off of things that I've seen. I know he's a Trump supporter, what have you. But anyway, so whatever. It could be implicit. It could be, whatever. Anyway, it exists though. So, but I do think that they are, not going to be the reigning dynasty for much longer. And, So, you know, that's actually not super surprising to me that they were ranked number 23, but it is still obviously a little surprising. The Bills are at 24, Cardinals 25, Giants 26, Broncos 27, Ravens 28, Jaguars 29, Jaguars. The Skins at 30, and the Jets at 31. I'm not sure I totally agree with that. I probably would have ranked them a bit different, but what the fuck do I know? Anyway, so here we go. Obviously, we are ranked at 32. Ryan Fitzpatrick and the Miami Dolphins. There's still a chance Josh Rosen will beat out Ryan Fitzpatrick for the Miami Dolphins starting quarterback gig, but the winner of that competition will likely have his work cut out for him. Facts either way. He doesn't talk about it here. He obviously stuck to the skill position players, but most notably because of the offensive line. Now, I hope Josh Rosen is the guy, but... And look, if he's not, that says a lot. That says a lot. If Josh Rosen doesn't end up starting, that says a lot. That says that maybe the Arizona Cardinals were right. This is obviously just speculation right now, and even then, you know, it's not definitive for sure that like he won't, you know, that he's gone or, you know, anything, you know, or that he can't pick it up or, you know, what have you. But it says a lot, right? If they think that he's not going to be ready, that the hype is maybe not as good as we, you know, as a lot of people think it is, and that maybe the Cardinals were right, you know, hey, this guy's actually not that great, right? Which, you know, unfortunately, if that ends up being the case, then he's going to end up being a waste, you know, because then we're going to end up taking a quarterback high probably next year, you know. And look, at the end of the day, unfortunately, I think from my perspective as of right now and my speculation from my evaluation of things, I feel like I'm going to end up being right about this. Like, because they didn't do anything about the offensive line, it's going to end up being super shitty. I think both of them are going to end up playing, right? But it's going to be terrible for the both of them. I think Fitzpatrick is going to end up starting, which is going to say something about Josh Rosen. And then he's going to play for a little while until he gets beat up. And then when he gets beat up and he's throwing picks all over the fucking place and getting, you know, the shit knocked out of him, then eventually Josh Rosen will come in, probably because Ryan Fitzpatrick either gets hurt or gets hurt. And then, you know, Rosen will come in, but he's not going to have a very good time, you know, behind that offensive line as well, unless they step up in like a super major way. But as of right now, that's looking pretty unlikely. And then we're going to end up taking a quarterback super high in the draft next year, which I think is going to be a waste, you know. But I mean, look, I think that the way that they are doing this is setting themselves up for failure in the long run. Because to me, it just doesn't seem like the smart approach. That's why I know people hate this, and I've been saying it a lot, but it's true, man. Like, they should have not signed Fitzpatrick, not traded for Josh Rosen, should have kept Ryan Tannehill. They should have fucking done the draft totally different, taken a top offensive lineman, like the number one offensive lineman in the draft, your center for the, like, next decade, Garrett Bradbury, kept Juwan James, and then taken a D lineman in round 2, and then Will Grier in round 3, and then next year they've got a bunch of draft capital, so they could just be taking guys left and right, but they could take but they could focus on the offensive line again, and then they could also take another quarterback in the mid to later rounds. So they don't got to use early draft capital. They can get, you know, the top talent again at, like, you know, the offensive line or something, right? I mean, our offensive line, especially now, is super depleted, and they didn't really do anything about it. And that's why I feel like, unfortunately, you know, from my perspective, you know, and again, I hope I'm wrong, but it looks like I'm probably going to be right about this, and that, anyway, let me get to the rest of this. Running back Kenyon Drake's production declined in what was supposed to be a breakout third season, and with Frank Gore gone, there are no other established backs on the roster. So let's talk about that for a second. So, So if the offensive line all of a sudden becomes stellar and so on and so forth, then it might make all of this moot, right? But let's assume that the offensive line is bad, right? Let's just assume worst case scenario and hope for the best, right? So at least for the purposes of this conversation. So not necessarily for the whole outlook on the season, right? Just for this conversation. So let's assume that the offensive line is terrible, right? We've seen Ryan Fitzpatrick and Josh Rosen and how they perform behind a terrible offensive line. So let's then assume that the quarterback play is not very good either. Reasonably, we can make that assumption based off of history. Ryan Fitzpatrick's 15 years in the league and college and whatever, and last year as a major point of emphasis, although obviously Josh Rosen's body of work is much smaller, and he did perform well in college. And I haven't exactly studied his college tape extensively, so I don't want to talk about too much about his college. But anyway, last year showed, though, in the NFL, in his 1 year in the NFL, if he's behind a bad offensive line, then he's probably not going to perform too well. Anyway, so we'll go with those assumptions. Now let's take the rest. So I know everybody hated the way that he was using Kenyon Drake last year, Gase, right? And everybody's like, oh, you got to use him more. But it's super easy for all of us, couch GMs and couch coaches, whatever, to be like, oh, whatever. But, there are often reasons that we don't understand, or don't know about why they do things. But it made sense to me because Kenyon Drake is really good at catching the ball and making something happen with it. In that regard, he's fast. Plus, ideally too, with the range of weapons we had, you would, have mismatches all over the place. But then once we started losing the offensive line, it was super smart of him to use Frank Gore, the thumper, the hard-nosed thumper, to, continuously get you that positive yardage and use Kenyon Drake more in the passing game. That was super smart, and but the thing is now we don't have Frank Gore, and all we have is Kenyon Drake. So if Kenyon Drake is incapable or just, ineffective or whatever, and because so far he hasn't been that great in that kind of role, right? He's more of like get to the outside, quick twitch, one jump cut, whatever, right? And he's got speed, right? So, he'll outrun guys, but he's not really good at that super, up the middle, through, between the tackles, got dudes all over him. He can make guys miss, but he makes them miss as opposed to he breaks tackles, but it's more like, not in a scrum like that, right? He's usually got a little bit more breathing room. We don't know that much about Kalen Ballage. He did show some good things, but he's still super young and wet behind the ears, blah, 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 all these things. So, and then who do we got, right? So, we got a Gaskin who's got a lot of hype around him, but he's a rookie, and the offensive line presumably is not going to be good. So unfortunately, we have a fullback now. We got a bunch of tight ends that can block and shit. So I'm not really sure exactly how he's going to want to run this, but I'm assuming that he's going to use the fullback and some of those tight ends in blocking schemes, especially considering the fact that the offensive line is so depleted and inefficient. We don't know that yet, but I'm assuming that they're not going to be as efficient as we would like. Anyway, so I think Kenyon Drake's going to have a rough time back there, and I think our running backs are going to end up having a rough time back there. And if the run game gets shut down and then more of the offense gets placed on the quarterback, it's going to be super tough. top 2018 receiver Danny Amendola is gone. As I've mentioned before, I would have kept Danny Amendola. I would have gotten rid of Devontae Parker, leaving disappointing 5th-year first-round pick Devontae Parker and the good, not great Kenny Stills in the top 2 slots at the position. So I would have kept Danny Amendola because he's reliable, he's got production, he's a leader, he's got the work ethic, he's got the championship pedigree, all of that shit, right? Devontae Parker, he's got potential. That's really it. And an injury history. He's got potential and an injury history, right? So that's it. He doesn't really have great production. He's got maybe like at best number 2 receiver production. He's got the injury history. He hasn't, instilled a lot of confidence in us and so on and so forth. I would have kept Danny Amendola and gotten rid of Devontae Parker personally. Kenny Stills, I love Kenny Stills. I mean, I don't have any problem with him. Is he a full-fledged number 1 receiver? No, I don't think so. But he's a damn good number 2 for sure. Beyond that, it'll be Bryce Butler, which I like, and Albert Wilson I love, Jakeem Grant I love. I actually do love a lot of our wide receivers. Preston Williams I am actually really super intrigued about, but all the more reason why having Devontae Parker doesn't make sense, but only if he... So, I mean, I do get... I mean, like I said, I would have kept Amendola over him, but having him... I just would have kept Amendola, goddammit, because Bryce Butler's a big body too. Like, I get that they wanted to try and keep a big guy. We drafted him, so on and so forth, but they gave him a contract extension. Like, and it's not like he's just playing on his 5th year. That's already come and gone. They should have just let him go, man. They should have kept Amendola. Amendola with Stills, Butler, Wilson, Grant, and possibly Preston Williams, because he's like 6'4" or some shit. He's a big dude, and he's doing, he's getting almost as much hype, or just as much hype, if not more hype, than Devontae Parker has this offseason. And we're accustomed to seeing the hype from Devontae Parker and then nothing when the season comes. So anyway, that's what I would have done personally. But I really like our wide receivers, but what are they going to be able to do if the offensive line, does not protect the quarterback and does not provide us with an adequate running game to help, supplement the offense? All right, and then tight ends. There's hope for 2018 second-round pick Mike Gesicki at tight end, but the Penn State product was virtually a non-factor as a rookie. The jury remains out there. So that's true. I mean, and I still don't think that he should be evaluated fully until, obviously, his rookie contract, and I think he still does have a lot of potential still. Jimmy Graham type potential, and so I hope he does get there. But it's gonna, again though, like the offensive line, it all goes back to that, because he'll end up having a disappointing second season if he ends up having to block most of the time and doesn't get opportunities in the passing game because the quarterback is getting sacked, or there's interceptions thrown, or just there's not enough attempts because we're all, going 3 and out all the time. Like, all this other shit, right? That, the average fan doesn't care about the nuance when it comes to this shit, right? They're just like, oh, I demand win. I demand win now. You go win or I fire you. Like, it's absolutely fucking stupid. There's so much that goes into it, and the reasons why coaches do things that they do and so on and so forth. And that's why, again, I just completely disagree with the criticisms, and not completely. I mean, there are fair criticisms for sure, but to the level that it is taken to with both Gase and Tannehill, I don't agree with it. I think that they are far better and deserve far more credit than people give them. I don't think Adam Gase should have been fired, and I don't like the way that things are being handled, and so unfortunately I think that a lot of our young talent, some of their prime years are going to get wasted because we're going to have disappointing seasons, because they're not adequately addressing the most important, areas. And it is not quarterback. It is not quarterback. Everybody, and frankly, if they wanted to, I personally believe, I know most people don't believe this probably, but I believe that they downgraded at quarterback. And I mean, look, the facts are the facts. Ryan Tannehill is better than Ryan Fitzpatrick. Point blank, bottom line, period. His stats are better across the board in every category for half the time in the NFL. He's also only now for the first time on his second team, whereas Ryan Fitzpatrick's been on like 7, okay? And again, Ryan Fitzpatrick holds no records that I'm aware of, period, anywhere. Ryan Tannehill holds numerous Dolphins records and an NFL record. So, I mean, there's no argument for anyone out there that wants to argue it. You can try, but there is no argument. Ryan Tannehill is leagues above Ryan Fitzpatrick. Leadership, work ethic, everything. Everything. Okay? And then I would have rather for sure have taken Will Greer in the 3rd over Josh Rosen in the 2nd. Anyway, so that's me. But what do I know? You know? So yeah. And then finally he says the weapons unit might not be bad if Drake, depth running back Kalen Ballage, and or Gesicki improved significantly in 2019, but the Dolphins don't have a lot of past production to hang their hat on. We know what Stills brings to the table, and it feels as though the ship is failing on Parker. It's not likely a group that will make a quarterback look better than he is, which isn't ideal for Fitzpatrick or Rosen. Well, and you know, guys like Grant and Wilson can do that. You know, they can make the quarterback look better by the catch and run kind of shit that they can do. But the concerns there are, will they be back up to, you know, where they used to be? So, look, man, I know people don't like this, but, you know, unfortunately, the majority of data we have is not looking positive for this team for this year or, you know, into the future. And you know, that is my perspective. Some of it is fact and data, like the fact that Ryan Tannehill is, you know, clearly a better quarterback than Ryan Fitzpatrick, but some of it is my perspective, and I hope they can prove me wrong, but you know, we'll have to wait and see about that. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys today. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. I hope you guys enjoy my videos. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. And as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I'm out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.